Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, the International Criminal Court upholds the acquittal of former Ivorian President Laurent Gbagbo. He's now free to leave Brussels. He's remained an influential political name amongst his supporters back in Ivory Coast. Also, Niger says a coup attempt at the presidential palace was thwarted just 2 days before the country's new leader is due to be sworn in. And Cameroon's ready for its close-up as its film industry, known as Collywood, attracts the attention of international names, including streaming platform Netflix. But first, former Ivorian President Laurent Gbagbo has been given the all-clear to leave Brussels after the International Criminal Court upheld his acquittal of crimes against humanity. Gbagbo's been living in Belgium under court orders since his release in 2019. He was initially charged in connection to the deaths of around 3,000 people in post-electoral violence in 2010 to 2011, after he refused to concede defeat to current leader Alassane Ouattara. Gbagbo's acquittal was a huge blow to ICC prosecutors. Sam Bradpeace tells us more.
At the pro-Gbagbo headquarters, the bottles were popping. About 100 people, including ministers of the former president and his son, Michel, had gathered to celebrate the confirmation of Gbagbo's acquittal at the ICC.
En tant que fils, je suis content, je suis heureux, je suis soulagé. Et puis je pense que ça apporte aux citoyens maintenant que je suis, mais à tous les citoyens de la Côte d'Ivoire, ça apporte également donc une belle perspective concernant la paix et la réconciliation en Côte d'Ivoire. Et puis un beau soulagement quand même après 10 ans de procès.
In Yopougon, supporters of Laurent Gbagbo held their breath watching the verdict unroll on a giant screen, eventually exploding with joy when the verdict came out. For victims of the post-electoral crisis, though, the vibe was altogether different.
La Cour pénale, pour nous, c'était l'espoir d'une justice. Aujourd'hui, après ces actions, la Cour pénale, c'est un mirage. La Cour pénale internationale vient de consacrer l'impunité en Côte d'Ivoire à travers cette décision. Elle vient de violer les droits fondamentaux des victimes à la vérité et à la justice.
Many people in Ivory Coast were expecting this decision, and the outpouring of joy this time around was far more measured than Gbagbo's original acquittal back in 2019.
Sam Bradpeace there for us. Now, several people have been arrested in connection to an attempted military coup in Niger that happened just 2 days before the country's new president is due to be sworn in. Mohamed Bazoum's inauguration is due on Friday. Heavy gunfire was heard around the presidential palace in Niamey early on Wednesday as security forces tried to stop a group of soldiers from taking over.
This district in Niger's capital may be calm now, but in the early hours of Wednesday, residents say they heard gunfire. The shots are thought to have come from the presidential palace, where the government says security forces foiled a coup attempt.
Le gouvernement condamne cet acte lâche et rétrograde, voulant mettre en péril la démocratie et l'état de droit dans lequel notre pays s'est résolument engagé. Le gouvernement informe la population que la situation est totalement sous contrôle.
Several members of the army have been arrested in connection to the alleged coup attempt. The apparent takeover bid comes days ahead of the newly elected president, Mohamed Bazoum's inauguration. His victory has been disputed by opposition leader Mohamed Ousmane. The former president argues that he won elections earlier this year. Friday's transfer of power is historic for the Sahel country. It will be the first democratic transition in Niger since it gained independence from France in 1960. Niger has a long history of the military seizing power by force. The country has fallen victim to 4 coups since splitting from its colonial powers.
Well, thousands of people displaced by an attack by Islamic State-linked insurgents in northern Mozambique headed south and arrived in the port city of Pemba on Wednesday. Extremist rebels continue to fight security forces in Palma and now control key parts of the town. It's next to gas projects that are worth $60 billion and was first attacked last week. The full scale of casualties is still not clear. Witnesses say that bodies were left in the streets and hundreds of people are still missing. The violence sent tens of thousands fleeing by boat and into the forest.
People had already died. We didn't know where to go. Then we heard gunshots. Then we didn't hear anything else and we ran away. We went into the woods. We had nothing to eat. We had nothing. We were hungry for 7 days.
I mean, people were coming here pregnant or carrying babies, sometimes even carrying their belongings on their head. To have arrived here is a miracle. It's not easy. The other day we had the case of a woman that gave birth while she was on the run. She managed the first day, and on the second day she had to stop to give birth. And then she came here to the city on the fourth day. So one day she's escaping and the other she's delivering a baby. It was a miracle from God.
Well, inroads are slowly being made into easing the gridlock that regularly paralyzes Nigeria's economic capital. The Lagos-Ibadan line links the two largest cities in Nigeria's southwest. And since its launch in December, more people have been getting on board. It's a rare, viable alternative to taking to the overburdened roads to get around. Our correspondents report.
The platforms of the Ibadan train station are still far from the big rushes. Yet, the future remains promising for this train heading to Lagos. These comfortable carriages attract between 100 and 400 passengers every day. With this line, the Nigerian Rail Corporation wants to demonstrate that the train is a remedy to Lagos road traffic jams.
I'm traveling to Ibadan from Lagos and I take transport. The traffic will be so, at that time at 4 p.m., you know, the traffic in Lagos is terrible. Before I can even get out of Yaba to, Ivorian, the traffic will. So I'll be getting to my house by 12, 11, thereabouts in the night. But with the train, it has eased traffic for passengers.
Ibadan-Lagos are the two major rail connections per day for the moment. Eventually, the line will end at the Apapa port. Impelled at the end of the 90s, the renaissance of the rail in Nigeria dates from 2017. A total investment of nearly $7.5 billion so far, and a loan which comes from a Chinese bank dedicated to rail networks between the major industrial, port and commercial metropolises, linking Calabar, Port Harcourt, Kano or Kaduna to Lagos. This is the challenge for the next 10 years that the Nigerian Railway Corporation management has set for itself.
So what we've achieved is what? The first phase of the project. The next phase is what? The Ibadan-Kano. And that is not going to take the form we use for doing this one. What we want to do with that one is for the whole work from Ibadan to Kano to go on simultaneously.
An emergency solution for Lagos and its systemic traffic jams. A megalopolis that could have 40 million inhabitants in less than 30 years.
Well, Cameroon's film industry is hoping that its close-up is just around the corner. Known as Collywood, its productions have attracted the attention of Netflix. The international platform's brought two Cameroonian movies, Therapy and the multi-award-winning Fisherman's Diary. Our team reports.
Action!
The director of photography gives instructions to the cast on this shoot in Douala. He's filming a movie about juvenile delinquency in Cameroon.
Can I see my mom?
Can't you greet?
Penjo has been in the industry for over a decade and has high hopes for the future of his craft. He says Cameroon's film industry, Collywood, has gone from strength to strength over the last 5 years.
A lot of things have changed, which is more of even the actors, the equipment that we use, and then the quality of the image. We were shooting those days with just HD, but now we're using 4K and more.
All this has raised the international profile of Collywood Productions. The director of the country's first movie on Netflix says his hard work is paying off. Today, Derek heads back to where he shot one of the most memorable scenes of the movie Therapy. It was one of the few exterior locations used in the film. He says the industry has a bright future ahead.
It's a boost to the entire Cameroon film industry because everybody right now, most of the producers that wanted to go on set, most of them have halted. They are like, no, we want to, rearm ourselves and get to Netflix. So it's already that call for consciousness. And of course, the productions would definitely get better.
At nightfall, in another part of Douala, a multi-award-winning actor organizes a premiere for therapy at his restaurant. The movie centers on the taboo surrounding male infertility.
So I definitely answer. They cannot get a woman.
Alene Menget is confident that it's now possible to make a comfortable living by working in the country's blossoming film industry.
And I would tell all the young people who are coming that you can make it. I'll be frank with you. There's so many of my age mates that I feel have been wonderful actors but refuse to join the industry because they wanted to fetch out other means of living. But today, now that we know that you can live here, you're going to see more talent.
Collywood has seen a steady growth in scope with over 300 movies having been produced since 2008. Over a decade later, prospects for the industry are even brighter because of the profitable opportunities offered by Netflix. The hope is that the online streaming platform will continue to pick up Cameroonian content.
Say anything wrong.
Well, that's it for Eye in Africa. Thanks for joining us. And do so again if you can. Take care. Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith.
Reporting from across West Africa.
All the latest in politics, economics and the arts in Africa on France 24. Our journalists are in every region, every country, to report on the emergence of a continent of unparalleled riches. Bringing you Africa's stories on France 24.
Thanks for joining us. Do so again.
Liberté, égalité, actualité.